My name is Jason Hand, and this is for Margaret Foe's Spring Semester of Bio 122. My project is on the Asian elephant. They are the second largest land animal, falls right behind their cousin, the African elephant. They're smaller in size and look a little bit different, so males are the only ones that have tusks. But they also have a dome piece on the top of their head, and the shape of their ears are smaller and a little bit more round. They are found in thick jungles and grassy plains, but enjoy areas that have both. And they are endangered, so that means their numbers are decreasing, and there's about 40 to 35,000 left in the wild. The background is that they are located on the Asian continent, particularly Southeast Asia and India. They're found in Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, Sumatra, Thailand, and Myanmar. So, one of the things about their history is that they were domesticated probably 5,000 years ago. They're used for transportation, logging, used in war and performances. One thing that they do is there's a mahout who is the caretaker for the domesticated elephants, and they go through a fajan, which is where they take a baby elephant and pretty much break the spirit. That's what the word means, and then rebuild it so that they rely on the human for everything. So they're nomadic, which means that they constantly are on the like walking and on the move. They climb hills, swim, and submerge their bodies. Whenever they submerge, the one thing that they stick out is their trunk and the tip of it, so they can have their whole body underwater, and then the tip of it will stick out. They're diurnal and nocturnal, meaning they're awake during the day and the night. They feed for about 18 hours. So since they're so large, they need a lot of food. They also will cover themselves in mud and flap their ears to stay cool. Being so large, they need to be able to cool their bodies off rather quickly. They have a matriarchal social organization, so that means the oldest female is usually in charge of the herd. Males are usually either isolated or in smaller groups, and then like whenever there's a baby, the mother's not the only one that takes care of it, it's the other elephants too. They're a keystone species, so they help out other organisms, and they're mutualists. So whenever they eat something, they deposit the seeds in other areas, so they help spread diversity. But then they also have a gut bacteria that they work with. They have three subspecies, and that includes the Indian, Sumatran, and Sri Lankan elephants. They're very similar why they fall under the Asian elephant umbrella, but they have few differences. So in HIPCO, the first one is habitat loss and degradation. So these pictures that you're going to see throughout the PowerPoint are all mine from my trip to Asia. In this picture, you can see that this area is where we would go and search. We spent about an hour and a half looking for the elephants because they roamed free. So they could deal with deforestation. So between palm oil plants, um, urbanization, and then rice fields, a lot of their habitat is being destroyed. It's also being fragmented by roads and railways, and the speed limits over there are not always followed or even regulated. So that means that the elephants are in danger of being hit by cars and trains. The eye is an invasive species, so a lot of farmers will let their livestock graze in the elephant's natural habitat, which means that they'll eat a lot of the
Sorry for the interruption. Teachers, please
a
double-check
lot of the
if any
food
campus and make
that
sure attendance
the
as
elephants need.
posted for all
But they're
your
also
classes so far,
invasive. Another
including the rest
invasive
of the day.
species is the
But please
Lantana
double-check the absences
camara,
list to make sure it's correct,
which
so
is from
this
India,
policy
and it's a
analysis will make sure
colorful
that all
plant.
district teachers have to follow. So please double-check and ensure you have accurate
It's a colorful plant that overtakes a lot of the land that elephants and stuff need, um, and it will kill everything off. And once that plant is formed, it can't be torn apart or taken out of the environment. Pollution. So you have air pollution, water pollution, and noise pollution. So all those things can in fact impact the elephant. Elephants need a lot of fresh oxygen, but they also need fresh water and not as much noise. With those things, like if those interfere, it can kill off the things that they need, like the plants, but then it can also help hurt their health. Climate change is a big thing that impacts all of our world right now. The weather patterns in Asia have been drastically changing. It's been a lot warmer than normal, which means that the heat has been increasingly high, which could interfere with the water that's available in Asia, but then also the elephants themselves. And then the rain patterns have been changing. So that means that there's not as much rain during their monsoon season, or their monsoon seasons are changing. Pollution growth, population growth. Asian population size is constantly increasing. About 20% of the world live near elephant range. That's a lot of people to be in contact with elephants constantly. But people need a lot of room to grow their food, but then also places to put the people. So that's why it interferes. The O is over exploitation. So this is Ponoi, one of the elephants that we saw. You can see that his tusks have been sawed off, and they're still growing, but they saw them off so that he's less likely to be killed by poaching and have his tusks taken. So illegal wildlife trade and the hunting and the poaching are a big thing. They'll take them and kill them for their skin, their meat, and their tusks. But then they'll also capture them and sell them into circuses, zoos, and other places. In Asia, you'll see a lot of elephants on the side of the road for elephant rides and tourism, which is not healthy. Conservation efforts. So that's a big thing that needs to happen. In 1975, the Asian elephant was put on the conservation of international trade of endangered species and wild fauna and flora. The U.S. put them on the Endangered Species Act in 1976, and then they created the Elephant Conservation Act in 1997. All of these are ways to help increase the breeding of the elephants, but then also to help with the more sustainable tourism practices. The first conservation effort that I saw was the Asian Elephant Conservation Fund. It started in 1997 by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. It identifies human and elephant interactions. They collect a lot of money and have funds for 30 different projects in 9 countries. So they have them in different countries, and some of them include community engagement and rapid response teams. So that way they can keep the community involved, but then send out help whenever there's an elephant interaction going on that needs to be intervened. They empower wildlife guardians, but then also help for like protected areas. But then they also provide training and workshops for the care of captive elephants, which is very important because there's always going to be captive elephants. And if we can provide the best care, then the elephants will be the healthiest. Elephantasia was founded in 2001 and it's a nonprofit. It's focused in Laos, but it works in different areas. So the first thing it does is socio-economic sustainability for mahouts. So again, the mahouts are the ones that take care of the elephants. And they promote better alternatives to logging, so ecotourism, so how they can involve the elephants with the public in the best way possible. They also do elephant welfare, where they provide free vet care in elephant hospitals and promote better handling and husbandry. The last thing is education and environment awareness. Education is key, and if we can provide education to the public, then we can save the elephants. The last is the Chester Zoo conservation efforts. So it's a breeding program, education, but then they also are helping with the herpes virus that affects elephants. A couple years ago, they lost one of their baby elephants to the herpes virus, and it's not something that happens in just captive, but it happens in wild elephants too, and they're looking for a solution to be able to stop that. My proposed management plan is to develop nature reserves in different Asian countries. So to start out, find different places like in Thailand, Indonesia, India, and then Vietnam and Cambodia, and get a section of land that we can keep the elephants on. Keep it as natural as possible, and then to hire the locals to promote the economy there, but then to also give them a pride in the elephants. To start out, you'd rescue elephants and save them from save the domesticated ones, but then their offspring have them have as little interaction with humans as possible to keep them as feral as possible. We also provide education, which again, education is always key, but then also do volunteerism. So volunteerism is what I did, and it's where you volunteer, but then get to work with these species, and it's a way that you can take pride in it, but do it in a sustainable way. To measure the success, we would do specific goals. So the education is very, very important, but then to increase the wild elephant numbers. So to have those baby and calves be as independent and not rely on humans as possible, but then also not to be scared of humans. And then to decrease the killings because of them interfering with humans. So to collect data, we would use tracking in the natural reserves and then also survey the villages, farms, and locals. And how we would do that is see what they need help with in the best ways possible to keep elephants and humans from interacting, and how to keep people away from those reserves unless they're there to visit. And here are my references. So again, all these pictures were mine from my trip to Asia. So we got to spend time in the healthiest way possible. Like we tracked an hour and a half to find these elephants, and we found them in their natural habitat and did what they wanted to do. So we took them down to the water, we fed them, and then whenever they were done, they could freely leave. Thank you.